Boom! You are live and direct with Arthur. How are you, Arthur, today?
Good, mate. I'm doing the best I can amongst the fiction.
Yeah, amongst the fiction, it's always that. For sure, we're always confronted from one day to another with some kind of nonsense that reminds us to, that,
And,
yeah,
uh, and
we're
and all
there.
that, and all hindsight, I'm always looking at being a hypocrite and
Yeah,
seeing how compromised that, you that's so important. You just don't let that get you down. You just, as long as you've got a dream that's greater from that good heart, that bigger picture, which is the remedy, which we'll talk about at some stage. You can build up the power of the remedy that will then, well, it's transitioning life from the system to a off grid, back to earth, down to nature, where it's always existed. It's like we've never we've never lost it. It's just we've just gone to sleep.
gone to sleep, deep sleep. Anyway, we're gonna start tonight with a comment that I received from Nomo no cry no man no cry no man no cry. I got it now. So it says, "Hi Arthur and Jenik, and thank you for another interesting video which raises important questions. Is it not asking too much to all be like Ulysses on the mast? To be so disciplined in focusing our intentions and thoughts? Can we all be Buddha? Jesus sacrificed everything on the cross up to his life. He overcame fear of loss and fear of death. Are we all up to the task? Is paradise only for the very happy few who can put on so much energy and effort? Is it a question of merit? Is it for a super elite? How many of us are willing to sacrifice themselves? Are you sure it is not sadly yet another cult with the goal never to be achieved, supreme intelligence, building another system on the way to another island? Arthur said we already have it all, so why so much asshole? All the best to you both.
Why so much? What? Sorry, what was that last word? Why so much
Arthur said we already have it all, so why so much asshole?
hassle?
Asshole.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
asshole.
I think what it
Asshole.
is.
It
Oh
sounds
no.
like
Well,
asshole, but it's
yeah.
asshole.
Well, there's your
Asshole.
duality for you, going from light to dark and dark to light.
But I think
Um,
I think both words could be good. So why so much? Yeah. So both words could maybe be good in the context.
well, I think the first thing, yeah. Well, apologies. I was just focusing on this. We all do have access to the good heart and the virtues. Some of us have a stronger bond with it or connection. Others, it's sort of a bit more flimsy or a lot more flimsy, whatever. But there's this conscience that plays with us every day because we see those of us who are thinking, you trying to use the brain to step outside the programming, start to see things aren't right. Now, a lot of people who have woken up over the years have always felt that there's something not right, and they've pursued to try and work out what it was. And so the conscience is going to make many of us look like as if we're creating another cult as we talk about what it is that we've discovered in accessing the system. Now, the thing that's really important with Arthur, this man, is that I intentionally unplugged from the system, which not didn't just mean commercially. It also meant that I had to sacrifice the ego so that all glory goes to the dream that I'm living for, which is life and nature, which is how we all should have been brought up like that, and not on me. Now I've had people accuse me of being occultish and that. I don't know if I've mentioned this in other videos, and I have, and it's actually part of the smear campaigns and character assassinations that come out of the occultic worlds down through their lackeys, and they come as intelligent operatives, and they come in amongst us. They work in the community, and they will do their smear campaign to try to box someone like me as if he's cultish. Watch out! Be careful of him. He's going to take your money. He's going to do all this sort of stuff, right? This is a known situation happens just not only in the work we're doing, but there are people who've become exposing what they've seen inside corporations that they were working in, And then you see the campaigns to go after them, to try to smear them and destroy them. And so, you know, look, this sort of stuff is an ancient thing. The only thing we have left when this stuff goes on, you've got to follow your conscience. You've got to use your, I guess it's due diligence, your scrutiny, your contemplation. Work it out. You've got to work it out. Now, not only am I out of the system, and I don't glorify. Now, people have accused me of being part of a cult. I just want to get this out of the way before we go back to the other things that this man has mentioned. And it was a very good series of comments that he made. I've said to people who've accused me of that, I says, well, you know, we've looked under our beds. We've looked inside our pantry cupboard. We've looked under our bed sheets. We've gone around every room in the house. Where's this cult? We've gone to the garage, looked inside the garage, looked into the car, under the car. We walked down the street, looked around the neighborhood. Where is this cult? You know, we looked everywhere. Where are these orgies? Where are all these women? Where's all these bank accounts all fat in money? Where is it all? You don't find them because we're not a cult. None of this is going on. In fact, the sacrifice is so huge that unless people willingly want to give from their heart what they gift, and there's nothing bad, wrong, evil about gifting. We all do it. You know, we gift if we are tuned to life. We're gifting all the time, even how we live. We're gifting back to life, and life's gifting to us all the time. Like, you know, the sun shines. It doesn't send you an invoice in the mail. You got to pay, otherwise the sun's going to shut down more of its light to you and your home. It doesn't work like that, you know. And the air we breathe, and so I intentionally made sure, being conscious and being older and having a lot more wisdom, because I've been through so much. I've seen too much terrible things over the years, and I was exposed to communities back in the 70s and late 70s and early 80s, and I've seen the disasters of all these things. And as I went into business, and it's just cultish, but that's the other thing about this. The system is a cult, and only people in the system will accuse other people of being in a cult because they themselves already have that framework in their head, and they're playing it out there, you know, as that duality thing, thinking, oh, well, then that must be somewhere else. It's not here. When actually it's a people, including the writer, is in a cult. Anyone in the system is in a cult. Every facet of the system are cults. They're all sameness models. They're all designed from being programmed to follow a certain fashion, a certain music, a certain, mantras, rhetoric. These are all cultish because they all came from outside, inside, and then we started being what was told us outside. We start meeting that and acting in those cults. So, you know, making money, banking is a cult. Everything of the system is a cult. If you look at the meaning of the word cult and look at it and just step back and look at how we live, you'll see everything of system life is a cult. So it's part of the confusion that the high-level occultists have put in place. So what I mentioned in previous videos, it wasn't just communism and socialism and other isms that they brought about, and how they took, because they always go to people. They've done it with us in my work. You know, I'm no joke. I was the guy who brought out the name. Name is the mark of the beast. Brought out all the name stuff back in 2005 and started showing it. And then eventually we had a intelligence operative who came as a transvestite called Kata Gaia. This is one of the classic examples of how they do it. A guy came out, a music DJ came out from England to come and interview us in 2009. And we willingly got interviewed, and I got a mate of ours to bring his video camera as well and video the whole thing as well in case of any slander or anything else that may come untoward out of it, because I'm already very weary of all these kind of things going on. And what we come to realize over the next 6 months, when this guy went back to England, was that they were doing a profile on us, all the questions that were asked. Now, these 2 videos are in the Arthur YouTube channel, in the Arthur Love for Life video section of the YouTube channel. Go right back, and you'll find these 2 videos that we made very early in the piece. And that is part of that surveillance, that kind of reconnaissance, and whatever else you want to ask to try and work out where we're at. They then created Kata Gaia out of Canada, believe it or not, who started running around with our work material because we're the ones putting it out. We're the one exposing. Not only that, I had with a mate of mine, we're the ones who brought out the fact that Australia was a corporation. The Commonwealth of Australia was a corporation. We came out with so many different things. People are oblivious just how much we put out there. Or we collectively worked with those few people and we used all their source material, all their brilliant work, and put it through the Love for Life website, put that all out there as well. So it's not I'm alone, but we did a lot of breakthrough stuff, critical stuff that on the cutting edge. And I was one of those on the cutting edge with Fiona in the background supporting the household and doing what you can to keep things together. And I'm just completely left the system to just get into who are these people? What is going on? How does it really work? All these things were going on for me intensely from 2005. You know, that's all now winding out because I don't need to waste my energy anymore on system stuff, but doing these videos to reach out for those who want to go into a creating kingdom and getting into the remedy instead of wasting our energy perpetuating the very problem that everyone seems to complain about, which I do too sometimes because I get sucked into the horrors of what you witness and you go, bloody hell, what's going on? And, you know. So I mentioned these things because it's when you stick your head up through the layers of brainwashing and you get up through the fog, it's like you raise your head up through the fog, you're looking at the occultists. You're now looking directly at them and they are looking at you. And now it's a different ball game. And I'm not joking when I'm saying this. And I'm not going to go through all the history of what we have journeyed in this unraveling. But then you have to use your wits because with this coming up, for those first few years, we had assassination attempts on my life. We had Fiona kidnapped. They tried to intimidate us. They tried to make us turn against each other. But I discovered helping Fiona, well, she got herself out of the police station by highway patrol who arrested her, which was just insane. And he actually tried to injure her in front of our youngest daughter. There was all this psychological manipulations going on, trying to mess with us to see whether we could break apart. We will. You know, that the mother, the wife, the family, but she didn't. She actually came out of that police station stronger. And I thought, my God, this is my wife. No wonder she lit up when I first met her. She's got some power there that I took for granted. I didn't know. So I knew that when push came to shove, there's a fortitude in Fiona that's very strong, that she can cope at the pace of what I'm exposing and what we are attracting to us, because it comes with the territory. All this shit comes with the territory. It's normal. That's why we've been, look, just one period, 2018, we had a letter from YouTube telling us that they're closing the YouTube account that was used since 2005, 2006 for all the gifts that were coming through, for all the supporters that were coming in since I unplugged to keep us going, keep doing the work we're doing. They closed that account and they said in the correspondence, in the emails and that, we haven't done anything wrong. We're just going to close it down. Scribd was another one during this 3-4 months period during the middle of 2018. Scribd is where you host documents and you can embed them in your website. So you can actually see a whole document. They said that we were promoting hate crimes and anti-Judaic stuff and all this stuff. And I said, well, we wrote to them. Where's this evidence? Show us what it is that we're doing. And they never replied. They just told us what we're doing, and they just shut down the whole Scribd thing. On Facebook, we had 45,000 followers. I can't remember exactly the numbers now on the Arthur Cristian Facebook wall. And that got reduced down to like 1,400. Just now, okay, fine. And then the limit of the 5,000 Facebook friends started dropping. And people were writing and said, why have you removed me from the Facebook friendship? I said, I haven't. And so you look in and you're discovering that the numbers from the 5,000 dropping down to 4,000 or 3,500. I'm not joking. This has happened over a period of weeks, just wiping people out. And that has been going on for years, even up until now. That's still going on. But we had such a backlog of people wanting to become friends, I just would go in and add them in. And when other people would contact me, let me know who they were, I put them back in, or I had to wait, or I had to whatever to let them in. Now, what that's also going, the ghosting. So when you're posting something on Facebook, it looks like I'm in the network, but I'm actually in an isolated 3D Arthur Cristian Facebook wall with no connection to anything out there by those little bits they want you to connect out there. And they have a few intel operatives posting comments and make it look like there's a communication still going with Arthur in Facebook, when really it's nothing like it used to be. And you'll find that that they not only do that, you get intelligence operatives who will then come into your Facebook walls and start to create controversy, create arguments. Now, we had this one Facebook Kindle group, which is one of the only ones still remaining, because we lost 5 Facebook groups, and we lost the Arthur Cristian Facebook wall because it got hijacked with a fake front of a Nigerian someone who took it. It was all bullshit. It was all intelligence operatives. And the whole history of Arthur Cristian's Facebook going back to 2006 was gone. And this guy started changing some of the posts, started putting his own photos in. You can see that if you go to the loveforlife.com.au website, you'll find in the news section, as you just scroll down a bit, you'll find the news section. And in there, you'll find the links to Bono, whatever his name is, Arthur at the end of it. You click on it, you'll still see Arthur, some of the main stuff. And as you start scrolling down, you'll start to see some of the Arthur stuff. You'll see that some of the photos have all been removed and altered. But the comments are all still there. And all the comments have nothing to do with what this guy's put up within that thread. And this goes on. I could exasperate all this, but no, that happened. That's been happening. Then we had YouTube channel. During this 4 months, during 2008, videos started slowing down. Video started going out of sync. Audio and video were going out of sync. Distortion started appearing across when you're listening, or it wouldn't load up, or people who were searching for, who've written to me, said, we can't find your YouTube channel. We know your link because you've given it out there and through your mailing list. We can't get to it. And then we get other things where pornography starts to appear in amongst the video. No joke. Real sexual stuff, just suddenly appearing in amongst the, what? What? And so that happened during this 3-4 month period. Then on top of that, Fiona receives a letter from the real estate agent, because we were in a rental property during the battles, during these years of where we had this, $6 million stolen from us in today's values, going back to when all the shit started in 2003 with the tax department and with the Commonwealth and with the Macquarie Bank scams. And I won't go through all that, explaining all that. That's all can be found on the website if anyone wants to find that stuff. But what happened was my train of thought here. But the reason, what the letter that came from the real estate agent said that the owners of that property, which also owned the property directly next door, we knew they were investment properties, and their plan was to keep it for years and years and years. We already were there for something like we were there from 2005 till we had to vacate in February 2019. So we were there quite a few years. They said that the owners were under financial duress and that they need to sell the properties and to solve some of the problems. And I said to Fiona, there's something wrong here. I don't feel right about this. Anyway, the people next door then vacated pretty quickly, and they bought a property. By that stage, they managed to save enough money to buy something in the Southern Highlands. They went in, the agents went in with whatever, the owner came down, they quickly cleaned up, tied it all up, put it back on the market and put it on the rental property again. I thought they were going to sell it. In the meantime, we couldn't afford to move because we had this massive garden that we built over these years. And we'd written to the real estate agent and told them, look, we need at least a year to do the right thing, so that when we do move, we'll give you notice that we are going to move. And or if you're going to want us to do it, please give us a year, so because we're talking about, 50 ton, 60 ton of what's grown there in what's become humus and soil, and all the garden beds all around it. And, it was a big project. So we were given a couple of months, if that. When we finally vacated it, and we had helpers from America and Canada and from Australia and others. And that's when I got injured during this period, and I became incapacitated. I couldn't actually do any real hard work anymore because it smashed my ribs. smashed things underneath them. So when we finally vacated, we had a friend of ours who gave us the money, so we bought a camper trailer, and so we lived out of the camper trailer. We became homeless, and our daughters were then helped to stay with other friends in the area because they'd grown up in the area. So that was all worked out well, challenging. And then the owner came down, and I got to meet him during the last stages of our tidy up. And he says, "I didn't know that you would do this." I said, "Well, who told you we wouldn't do this? That we wouldn't bring it back to how it was?" And I knew straight away, this is just people getting into their heads, giving him bullshit. And long story cut short, out of all of that, they put the property back on the market and rented it out. They just didn't want us there because we were promoting this, creating abundance. We were producing 2 ton on roughly 1/16 of an acre of a rental property. That was just a clay belt. There was no tops, nothing. We had to learn how to restore it all. It took us from 2011, late 2011, really to about 2013, 2014. Then we met our friend Aidan Bender, who opened up our eyes to carbon and all these other things that we were already on the right track. We just didn't realize some of the things we were doing was incredibly essential for mycelium fungus and beneficial microbes, and having an aerobic environment, not an anaerobic environment to grow food out of. So that was, sorry, I think I lost my train of thought again here. But the reason I again mentioned these things is that we were giving away free food. That's right. We were producing 2 ton of food as an average. And a lot of that food has been given away because it's propaganda. It was all about propaganda, trying to inspire people, because we wanted to create the land. We wanted to do this on a bigger scale. We wanted to learn about it on a smaller scale. So there's nothing cultish about Arthur and Fiona in doing these kind of propaganda things that we were doing, because we were always constantly into the remedy side of things. The Kata Gaia situation with the name, it removed all the remedy work to our name stuff, which was, there are videos I put up about that years back, and a lot of articles and posts we put up way back 2007, 2008, about the name and the real connection and how it all works. And so we had a transvestite come into being associated with Arthur Christian's work and Fiona's assistance. I immediately created a disassociation post on Facebook and posted it everywhere, including the mailing list, where I could, and put out to say that we have a dissociation from Kata Gaia, and that what's going on with Kata Gaia has nothing to do with us, even though they're using our material, our mantras. Now, it's very important. I talk about these things because it shows you why we are not cultish. It's because I studied, one of the things I studied during the years of Love for Life was this Laurel Canyon hippie flower power movement that a guy who was doing a PhD or something like that researched it, not looking for conspiracy or anything. It was just research. Who were the people? How did it all come about to start the hippie flower power movement in America? What he discovered in doing the research, he came across this area, Laurel Canyon, which is up in the hills or mountains of Los Angeles, an hour's drive out of the heart of the city, or whatever it is, hour and a half. I don't know what it is, and there was a military industrial complex inside Laurel Canyon. And he discovered that all the major musical artists like Jim Morrison, Mama Cass, Frank Zappa, David Cosby, and it goes on, were the children of the military industrial complex in Laurel Canyon. And when he told me about this, and when I was looking at the work, I realized there's a big problem here, and I got to see one of their psyops. What they were doing was they were hijacking the real freedom truth movement that started in America in the 50s, and all their mantras amongst the growing movements of people. Remember, we're talking about anti-Vietnam, the anti-Korean War. We're talking about all kinds of terrible things going on. People wanted to maintain their sovereignty. They did not want anything to be associated with all these other private corporation infringements and government infringements. So there was a real freedom truth movement growing in the 50s and into the 60s in America through word of mouth. It wasn't in mainstream because the people behind all these problems are controlling everything. They only let through what they want to allow. If there is someone or some group they're not under control, but what they're doing benefits their agenda and the outcomes, well, they'll allow that to play out. But generally, what was happening, the flower power movement was used to hijack the mantras of the real freedom truth movement, and by association have it with orgies, free sex, free love, drugs, booze, alcohol, dropouts, space cadets, and everything else that could possibly be played out. So that other Americans in mainstream, because this is all now in mainstream, all this is played out, even through the fashion industry, it just goes on, who come across the mantras, they will write off because of the association with hippies and all that stuff, they'll write it all off. So even if they hear those mantras coming from the real freedom truth people, generally speaking, people will write it off because that psyop has been working. Now, that was one of the major reasons. Now, not only did they do that, but then the intelligent operatives that were David Cosby and Jim Morris and that, people would come to them and talk to them as if they're one of them. They're one of us. And they would talk to them about what their plans were, what they're doing, who they're mixing, where they're going. And so all that intelligence gathering was then fed back into the networks. And then anyone that needed to be addressed, they would then send their forces in and deal with it to control that situation so it doesn't become a major growth that could cause huge problems for these occultists. People call them Zionists. You can call them whatever you want. They have to control that. Now, I've seen that with the One Nation Party in Australia with a woman called Pauline Hanson behind it. The same things happened here with that under a different situation, but the same events played out with the rednecks in Australia, who are all people who were, this is just to show you, when people think about Arthur Cristian and Love for Life and the work Arthur's doing, you've got to be able to realize that there's so much at play behind the scenes that you may not even notice, where the manipulations are being played out, and it comes into your private life, it comes into the area where you live, it'll come into media. Some of the mantras will be used even in politics, and by prime ministers and presidents, and you even see like the flat earth thing. You hear them, they make jokes about flat earth, and we've seen Obama make jokes about flat earth and all that stuff. There's a reason for all this kind of whitewashing. So the same thing happened with Arthur and the name work, and that the name and the birth certificate and how you use the name and how you get bound and all that work was parts of it being used by Kata Gaia as a transvestite and tried to make everything else associated with us with that, so that people, when they come across the mantras of Arthur and all the insight, they would write everything else off as well. They've done it. That was a campaign. I'm not joking. That happened in 2015. And there's a very interesting document you can find inside the Love for Life website, attachment. I've got a whole stack of documents that I salvaged from the old website, which is still alive in a subdomain, that was the other thing that happened in 2018. We got millions and millions of bot attacks until it crippled the major database of the Love for Life website, and that was then pushed into a subdomain because it was crippling thousands of other websites on the pair.com server or servers. And there's another whole story behind all of that. So we have all the backups and all that. We just can't afford to blow the big money over these years to rebuild the Drupal database into the latest version of Drupal or change it to another database. But all that happened, and all that association with Arthur, they tried to cripple it. So that's why we wrote the disassociation and put it out. Now, I anticipated things much faster than what they were planning to do. Then we had the thing like Jabba. Would you remember Jabba and the whole association through the Love for Life group and how that grew up? And he had another, that is Intel. Jabba's Intel. Thea and I knew that Jabba was Intel for a long, long time. We treat them like friends. We just treat everyone with respect and just be who we are anyway. And we anticipated what he was planning. And I made sure that we did our disclosures and things and our methods on Facebook to unplug what they were planning to do to try to cause us to become this bad cult, because Jabba happened to be part of it from Switzerland and wherever else he's hanging out. He's an old Rastafarian music guy. I mean, I saw all the writing on the wall, what was happening here. It was blatantly done. And that affected some followers, thinking, oh God, Arthur is one of these people that Jabba's saying, and people, because Jabba's got music and they like Jabba and the music, they say, okay, that influence passes on to everything else. They haven't stopped to really scrutinize. Now, as long as Thea and I maintain credibility, maintain standards, we're not doormats. We'll knock things on the head. If anyone comes along, we will come after them and expose it and document and keep all that documentation. So it's out in the public domain for those to make sure they're not going to use slander against us down the line or come up with some bullshit. And. So we have done all this over the years, and it's been very intense to this point where if you haven't got any common sense and realize what has been thrown at us, you won't realize that we're not cultish just because we have passion. People confuse passion with ego because both of them can appear to be inspirational, but one is really inspiring, the other one is malevolent because it's all done through predetermination. It has it's designed from the darker side of life, the manipulations which I've covered so much already in our videos. So there's nothing about Arthur or Fiona that we are a cult or we are recreating a cult or nothing. All we can do is share the truths of the insights for those who want to take on the full responsibility to want to change their life. Because if you don't change your life and change the tools that you use, that you're feeling in here, where the intellect and the mind operate, which don't exist because the intellect and the mind are fictions, if you do not recognize the feelings of the words, you're not going to see how you're using all the emotional, destructive feelings to push against other people, to push against even who you are in your real soul, heart space, to push against others, to isolate yourself, which becomes cultish. Because all cults come from that emotional stuff, and then people bond to it. Even if to survive inside them, we're part of the new,
Okay, so
V.
if we all like been programmed from birth and pumping stuff into us and stuff, how do we come to a certain age at one point and realize that we need to put that unity on the mask? Because the comments referred to more the way I see it is not, it wasn't an attack on you or Fiona saying you were
That's not an
cultish or
issue.
anything,
We
but
know that.
more like if we ourselves individual go on and on a quest of finding our true self or the truth about the world or stuff, we might just be recreating a new cult. You always say it's
that's
a
because
cult of oops, or going
that's
from one island to another island that
that's
sometimes
because
you think is a big land but ends up being an island.
That
So
island is the
how do
emotional
we
stuff.
clear our own confusion concerning
Very
the
simple.
fact that we don't want to recreate another cult if we're always jumping from cult to cult? Is there a middle place where I can exit
There's no
all
middle
cults?
place. There's no middle place. It is simply the good heart and its virtues. And if you know it and you work with it, it doesn't create cults. Because there is no narcissism, there's no self-centering, self-obsession to create the vortex within the darkness that builds up the cultish energies. And because in all that darkness of the system of that island is what we've given up. We've forgotten who we are, and it's what plays out in our everyday lives with other people. If you cannot work out what the good heart is and stick to it and stay true to it, so you know what trust is, you know what honesty is, you know what sincerity and purity and all these other good-hearted elements. If you don't know them, you'll still be confused, and it's only the doubt and the uncertainty and the distrust and all that that'll have you think that other people who appear to be doing the good work could be cultish, because you don't want to take the full responsibility in your life to change how you are, and in that true light see what someone like Arthur's doing. Because unless you walk into that heart space, you're not going to know the truth. You'll still be manipulated. You've still got the island and the sirens in your head, and it's only the island and with the siren that has you think like this. It's still part of the intellect and the mind that try to control and dominate your vessel, so it controls the movements. It won't. It's like a bloody robot. Oh, I cannot go in that direction. I can only go in this direction and move forward and move forward. And I'll follow my leader wherever my emotions take me. No disrespect. But when you think like this, what you've written from that reader, it's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. Look at it this way. We have every generation full of mothers and fathers who love their children. It goes back hundreds and hundreds of generations. They all love their children. They all dream for their children to do greater things than them. Look at the mess we're in today. We all come from mothers and fathers, many who love our children, love us. But they're compromised, they're confused, they don't realize the insidiousness of how much the dark side has sipped into the light to mix in the things that we talked about in this series of videos. If you cannot unravel which is which, you will never ever get away. And what happens with people in cults, they try to bring down other people who are trying to break away. And they'll try and bring them down and accuse them of all kinds of stuff. That's all cultish. People who come from my heart space don't waste their energy on all this stuff. I bring it up because I have a profile on the internet, and I've had one for a long time. And it was our Love for Life work had over 440 million unique IP addresses hit the homepage up until about 2017, mid-2017. That's how big it was. Right? We're talking like a little dog biting the ankles of a giant, because we're inside the 1% of the bigger profile websites. But the bigger ones, we're the little biting at the ankles of these things, They didn't want us there. And the effort they put in to try to mess with us, and how much they've created silence and distance to all our work. You hardly find anything to do with Arthur Cristian on the internet anymore anyway, because they have taken the time and the years to try to break it down and do all that stuff. It doesn't bother me. It's not my problem. It's not my issue. It never will be. But that's what does go on. So unless you notice these symptoms, you ain't going to ever wake up and break away. What will you do? You'll just wake up and go to bed and still be a system drone. You'll talk about freedom, but you still go to the shops. You'll still talk about peace and truth and not, but you still go to the shops. You go and buy that one pen that needs tens of thousands of people. Now, people can't work this out where we're coming from, and the scale of the sacrifice required to surrender so much of our life energy, to direct it into a community life where we undo a lot of this. We can't do it all in one huge bang. Well, maybe we can. I just don't know whether we can. There are not people up for that. If there is enough Ulysses out there to do it. But this stuff really is at the core of my greatest passion and everything I do. It's best to look at what the work and what people do and how they walk in the talk, than looking at just their personality, their character. And because you're hearing things, you try and associate, that could be cultish. Get to know the man. Come and work with the man. Come and work and live around us. Come and bring a motorhome and come and stay here for a while. Get to know it. If you don't, you will never know. And anything you think will not be the truth, no matter what it is you're thinking. And that is all through the system, this stuff. It's throughout every suburban area. Every household has this shit going on from one thing to the next. It's just in different guises. And a lot of this emotional stuff is what's ruining people's lives. And they don't know how to separate from it. What we're doing is exposing it clearly, simply, how it works. It's up to each of us to walk the talk of the good heart and its virtues, to recognize those amongst us who are sincere and genuine, who want to walk that talk. Because unless we do this, there is nothing in place to replace what we're already caught up in that's disastrous. You've got to build something from the heart, create that as a community without being under the religion of anything. We don't need, and when we get to the real place, it is a revolution of silence, an absolute revolution of silence, because everybody knows who they are. Everyone's empowered and passionate as Ulysses, and they clearly, because they're not cluttered, they don't have all the other voices in there and the distractions to occupy them. They're just focused on the creativity and learning and practicing the space and the peace and the calm, and allow the power of the good heart to come through and commune. Now, that is where it is. They're all words. If you can't sense that, there's nothing I can do about it. We can't. The other thing, I can't change anybody. I can't and will never be able to change anybody. And if I thought that, that would become cultish. And if I try and pursue that, it will be definitely cultish. I can't change anybody. We each have free will. We have to use it and exercise it in our unique ways. All I can do is to say that we are committed to not living, we want to live a do no harm way of life, even though it sounds hypocritical. But we can work together to cut it down, cut it down, cut it down, cut it down as we build these kingdom villages. All right, the KINDOM, no G in it.
But my question would be also, do you think we're all ready to be
So
exposed to our truth, first of all, our own truth?
if we
And
don't,
do you think it's something that humanity, we call us human, manity, maybe we should call it manity, do you think it's something that manity will experience one day? A massive
I don't
awakening
know.
towards taking full responsibility of
I
our
don't
life?
know. I don't know the truth about a great man and whether a great man could come along with a magic wand and just wipe out the free will of everybody and remove all this sinful stuff in our thinking, feeling, and suddenly we're miraculous and we're all back in a paradise frame set.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. To me, from where I am at, we have free will. And unless we each exercise that free will and walk that talk and do something about it, nothing changes. There's no point wasting our energy on numbers. Everything I do is not about numbers. How many people follow me? I'm not interested in being followed. People who try to come into my life to follow me, I burn them off because they're not still being responsible for their life. And when they're relying on me to tell them how and what they should do and where they behave and all that, when shit happens to them, because that'll continue, they'll start to blame me because they put everything on me for them to live the model of the life that they're now living out of. I don't let that happen. I burn that off. Nobody follows Fiona or Arthur. No one. However, if people want to co-create, if people come along acting with that full responsibility, who want to handle the Ulysses and be that, we have something to work with then. We have something we can work with that's not going to turn, it's like a wall of community immunity. Brother and brother standing next to brother and brother, creating a wall of community immunity. Harm to one is harm to all. Harm to all is what we're already experiencing, how everyone's getting picked off. So when we open up your conscience and open up that good heart and all that moral correctness, you act on it. Someone tries to harm you, I'll be there to stop it. In a village situation, a community, doesn't matter what stage we're at. You must route that out. So people who come along who've got poor attitudes, they're not going to be there anyway because they've all been burnt off. There's no moth to the flame with us. We don't have a flame for a moth to hang around. People have to be their own light, not as in self-centeredness and narcissism, but to hold the domain of the responsibility of their life and to be sure they don't allow any harmful stuff come inside that domain that plays out in their headspace, which then starts to play out with other people. You don't do that. We just don't go down those roads. The standard is stop it. Each of us stop it. And those who want to come along and get party to that, they come as a co-creator. There's no leader that way. Sure, we can be custodians. We can be wisdom keepers. We can look over and, in my case, I would like to consider that I would be wise enough to point out when I see that emotional stuff appearing, that I will confront and point that out, is show it to them. If they feel pride or they feel shame or they feel other kind of emotional stuff, eventually they're just going to leave because they're trapped in the demonic siren stuff in their head. You've got to be stronger than that stuff. You got to be able to journey past the island and all that coming at you from the system, and don't let it get at you. Just stay focused on what we're doing. I can talk and talk and talk for the next 2 months, Shanik, in these videos. It won't do anything for anybody, really.
Okay, but
I've told you
if
this
we
before.
if we focus on the remedy, what would be our role, the ones who can see behind the veil, can see the big picture? What should we do? Should we blind people with our light or just shine the light?
You just be it, walk the talk, live by example.
Because if we want to create some kind of remedy for all of us to move out of this seemingly dark age, it's
Well,
not so
right
dark.
now,
It's not so
right now,
dark to
there's
me because I'm more on the love side than everything. So
yeah, but
it's a seemingly dark age.
it's like I
It
said in
appears
another
to be.
video. It's like I said in another video that you can get all these newborn Christians and they're all saved, and they're all going to go and sit by the side of their favorite God and Messiah and Savior and all that. And there's a lot of love amongst everyone in that. And they all do a lot of community stuff amongst each other inside the church of that religion, which is a cult that they're caught up in. But all that time, they're all doing this. They're all consumers, materialists. They're all tapped into the system. They're still involved in the commerce. They're still involved in everything that causes all the harm. And they need to do that because that's what gives them the evidence to keep reacting back to their religion and keep them trapped in the cult because they can't embrace it. What I'm talking about, we embrace everything, but we don't give up our real life for everyone else around you. We can't save everyone around us. All we can do is be it. For me, what I talk about is to create small local villages with enough of us who are prepared to live for the village so that the village takes care of everybody. If we all take care of the village takes care of everyone. Now that becomes free from narcissism. It becomes free from self-centeredness. It becomes free from thinking whatever voices are still in our head, because that greater picture, that greater dream is what we're working for. So if anything else comes in our head, we ignore it. We don't bash ourselves up when it comes in our head. We say, oh, okay, thank you, but back to the dream and putting our energy into the bigger picture. Now, the only way that that village could make a difference is there's enough people shown that you don't need government to live with each other. We don't need insurance to live with each other. We don't need the rule of law. We don't need commerce. We don't need all the things of the system to be able to function, which is how life was pre-invasion long ago. Like I said, you don't have to teach a child what it is to be a tree before the child can experience the tree. Just like you don't have to teach a dog what it is to be a dog before the dog grows to become a dog. You see, there's so much already built in if we allow it to shine. But you can't shine through the intellect and the definitions and explanations, even with what we talk about. That's not shining. That's the promise of what we're capable of. But we have to walk the talk. We've got to live it, live in the dream of that and hold it. So if there's enough of us who want to create a village as a living example of that, then that is what will happen. That's my commitment. That's what I'm creating with Fiona. Big enough, strong enough that the abundance of hundreds of tons of free food can be given away to the local community, that we could buy a building in the town and make that become a free distribution area and a training for people who want to learn how to grow food and learn how to be responsible for their lives. Help all the poor in that way. But we keep it smart so we're not exhausted by people's shit who come as spoon-fed slaves wanting you to feed them, because you can't help those people. You can only help those people who want to take responsibility to stop being spoon-fed, because only spoon-fed slaves act as victims. Only spoon-fed flames act as if there's a cult around them or accuse someone else of a cult. Someone who is not spoon-fed is in silence. And this is where I will end up. That's my commitment. I don't want to talk. That's why I don't want to do more videos. I'm going to end all this shortly and leave it for those out there who want to kind of work it out. But unless we are doing it and living it, there is nothing there to change what's going on from the bigger picture all around us. We have to be that change, live that dream. But you can only do it with the tools of the good heart that are not in here. The tools of the good heart are not centralized. You can't define it. It's part of the true freedom of life itself that gives us peace and joy and happiness. It comes naturally from being that. It's a byproduct of being that. So we're not controlling.
Can we hope to be able to cope with this
No,
nonsense around us
no,
and still
no.
build our dream and entertain our dream within the dream of life, even though, like, when I look around, people are confused, are really not coherent with what it is to be a man or woman on the land. So then I'm working on myself, building my stuff, building my dream and stuff, but I'm still surrounded by muggles that have no idea how magic life is and how magical you can make it for yourself and for all of us. So now I'm here on Earth wanting to work the dream of life like a madman, but I have muggles around me sitting, watching TV, eating popcorn, drinking Pepsi. What the heck do I do?
Well, it's very simple to me. A couple of layers to this. One, instead of waiting around for a great man to come along with a magic wand that's just going to fix all our problems for all of us, how about we just get on and create the remedy and live it and walk that talk, put the labor in, wake up and labor, work your ass off. Instead of ringing someone like Arthur's kid them up and running, and I'd say, yeah, sure, come over. There's plenty of shovels and picks here ready for you. Come over and join in. Those people don't turn up. They're all spoon fed. They want it all laid out.
Yeah.
These people are the ones that sit down and pray and they hope and they're begging. There's multi-million, billions of people hoping and praying and begging, but they're just consumer slaves. They're spoon-fed slaves. They're misguided with their good heart because they're putting all their energy into the fictions of Jesus and God and Allah and Buddha and all the other things that are fictions, and all that feeds the system. The occultists who are controlling all of it because they institutionalize any good man who comes along to do great work. They'll rewrite that his story and make it become institutional, and make it become pasteurized, homogenized. Make it become a way that they can control remotely the cult of those people caught up in the rhetoric of it. So there's no point sitting down relying on all the people who are praying to Allah, who are praying to Jesus, or praying, because all these people are still all slaves. They're still broken. Now, in the meantime, we could get on with it. Those who are waking up, those few of us who are waking up, we can get on and create a village life. So if a great man did come along, he'd come along and go, oh, God, I've got nothing to do here. It's already been done. I might as well just sit down and relax and join in with everyone else. Big difference. Instead of waiting for something to come along with a magic wand to try and change how we're thinking and feeling and how we're acting and behaving. We have to change it, each of us. You've got to watch out for the peer pressure of all those around you that don't keep you down, because the way the system works, everyone tries to keep you down. They don't want you to raise the bar, because raising the bar brings up all the paranoia and all the psychosis and the trauma and all the other self-centeredness and narcissism that leads to conflict and creates even further separation, even though we are already separated. Because fiction creates separation between brother and brother, brother and sister. The real bonds of man don't not come from that stuff. Relying on the system and anything to do with the system and how it lives and thinks won't fix this. That's all on the island. There's a lot of people sitting on the fence on the island. Don't know which way to jump. What's their problem?
Okay, so you just answered my question. That's their problem. If someone's not wise enough or have intuition enough to decipher what's going on out there, you can save them. So as much as you want to build your dream, work the dream of life, you're not responsible for other people's wreck in their life.
No, because they got free will.
Exactly.
And they
But
have to use
sometimes we
that.
feel bad. Like sometimes I feel bad that I'm doing stuff and I'm like almost all the time celebrating by myself because everyone around me is like freaking dead. Like I
Well,
walk
it's a
around and
difference.
it's the Walking Dead situation.
You can be
So
in there.
how do
Can I,
you cope with all this? Like you want to
like,
jump off the island, but then the island wants to bring you back to their vibration level, and like it's
you've
not
got to,
so.
like I said to you, like I said to you in the other videos, we have the power to be in their world. We can be on their island, but we are not of their world. We're not
Okay.
controlled anymore by all the emotional stuff that's formulated English languages and all the alphabet languages. We don't listen to anything of the alphabets anymore because it carries all the emotional powerhouse stuff that undermines us and destroys us, and we're not conscious of it. So I can be in that world, but I don't let that world steal me, hijack me, derail me. So you've got to stay calm. You've got to stay really centered and just keep working on the living dream. So we're on land, we've got acreage and all that, and we're responsible to turn this into something that is a living example of what it is to be not of their world. So those of who are in that world, who want to come and see with their own eyes how people can live without the way they're living, they might get wow, because it's something before their eye, before them. Because it's the doubt, the uncertainty, the confusion, the fear, right? It's behind everything of system life. It's behind mortgages. It's behind rent. It's behind going to work to make money. It's behind shopping. It's behind it because you don't have it. You don't have that certainty. You don't have that security. So you've got to be that. And that's the full responsibility, to be it and live it here and now and be conscious of that, so that you're putting all your energy into the land to grow the forest, to grow the orchards, to grow all the food and create abundance and magnificence. That's why this property is going to have running water all the way around it. And as we acquire other properties to take it across to the river, so we bring in the whole river into the whole thing, we may end up with 600, 800, I don't know what it is. I don't even think about all that. I just one thing at a time, one piece, look after that. It starts taking care of the next and the next and the next. Look after Arthur and Fiona. We look after each other. Someone else comes along, they'll look after it and starts taking care of themselves. But we're working together with a common goal. We're not sitting there playing out all the doubt and the uncertainty and distrust. So much of the talking through all the podcasts is about the doubt, the uncertainty, the distrust, the confusion, the complacency, the apathy, the denial. It goes on. The podcasts, even you don't create the remedy. All our talking ever since we started talking about freedom doesn't create freedom. People have to come to it, and they've got to sense it, which is not in here. You're not going to fix it in here. They have to be able to start relaxing and start feeling it all around them, because that's as far as their consciousness will start to spread. And when you start expanding your true consciousness naturally, and you can't define it, you can't explain it. Even I have difficulty trying to explain this, but the more you just do that, the remedy is already happening. And the more we stay inside the domain of that and nurture that and look after it without fear and all the other stuff, and others join in that, it fixes the issue of children. It fixes all the issues of raising children. It fixes up the relationship issues we have with each other, because the good heart and all its virtues is what we work with to deal with whatever we have to deal with, to resolve whatever it is that needs to be processed as we expand and expand and expand. You can't do it in here. You can't come armed with an encyclopedia of constructs and concepts and definitions and talk about it, because it doesn't change anything. And those people who are like that are spoon-fed slaves. They're all addicted to the system. They're all on the island, broken. To become Ulysses on that mast, you got to be it. You have to be willing to face it and go, I feel the emotions. I can feel the seduction of that. I can feel that offering of distrust or loneliness or emptiness or nobody loves me, or I can feel, because there's so many different scripts that come with this shit. But you start to notice it and you go, well, thank you.
I refer often to saying that, we have to become, it's hard to move out of the herd, but you can become an immaculate member of the sheep, of a herd of sheep. Like, you don't have to be within the sheep. You can be the immaculate member and the friend that leads the sheep to some kind of freedom or whatever you have envisioned. But now, how do we not turn this into a cult if you want to lead others to their...
When we are the sun that shines, everything goes outwards and there's nothing for self in it. Wherever there is an attachment to self is only there where you'll create a cult.
Okay.
So if we're creating a paradise for the greater good of others, and you have 10, 15, 20, 30 of us, whatever, all doing that, there is no cult to be formulated. It's like the sun that's shining, and it starts to think for self. And so where the rays are now going out to nurture and love and care for all of life, it stops doing it because its rays are now coming back on self. It's my rays. It's my love. It's my warmth. It's mine, 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 mine. Where the sun once was and all its glory is now a black hole of nothing. Everything is dark and dead. That is soullessness. That's the ego. That's the destructive emotion. That's what the island is. That's where all the sirens are coming out of. They have to manipulate you. You've got to stay focused on the big heart. You got to sacrifice what we own, what we have. We already got it all now. When you're with other people who are morally correct, working with the rays of the sun, the soul of the good heart, we would never dare to put someone in a situation that's detrimental or not right. This is not about getting the best spots. Oh, this is my spot. All the good bits is for everyone to enjoy. We take all the worst bits and we transform it back to paradise. And we share all the good bits with each other as well. That's critical. This is why I've burnt off people. I've burnt a lot of people off because there's still too much island in their head. They're not ready for it. They want to come to me and they want to talk about everything and they're excited, but that's not enough. If they're not willing to walk the talk and live it and be that good heart, they're not there. They haven't practiced it. See, exactly. As it is here and now, 24/7, we're practicing narcissism. No joke. We are practicing narcissism, self-centeredness, self-obsession, self-importance. Because it's called survival. It's labeled as survival of the fittest. It's not about the big picture. So unless you are open to the big picture, which is that consciousness expanding, which is where we raise our children, allow the children to grow into the big picture naturally, don't define it for them. That bigger heart, that bigger responsibility grows, and that as big as we hold it, we wouldn't dare let anyone play out narcissism or self-centeredness or self-obsession in the domain of that dream that we hold, that we're accountable for. I would never let it happen. I'd go and confront it to the point if the people who are doing it continue doing it, they'll have to move on. Because that's going to alter and sabotage and undermine what this is all about. Meaning they're not ready for that responsibility. When you are narcissistic, you're a vacuum cleaner. You're a parasite. You're a leech. You're a vampire. You can even do it in silence and still be like that. But when you're truly free from all of this shit and you're just willing to just serve from the heart, forget the words. You work it out your way. How that sun shines, where the rays never turn back on self. The soul is alive. The man is Ulysses. He's part of the. Do you realize the 300 Trojans?
So will humanity be forced to wake up if they're forced survival, in real survival?
Forget humanity. The great man went into the system. He was on the island that we call Galilee and Nazareth and Jerusalem. It was all on the island. He went in to their world. He wasn't of it. But everywhere he went, all his work, he was in it. He was on the island. He didn't leave the island. He stayed on it. And the island killed him, tormented him, tortured him. Because that's what happens on the island. And the island transformed his great work and created more island stuff through the cults of what they created, because it's all cultish.
Yeah.
So don't expect anyone to come along on the island going to suddenly wipe it all out.
It's not going to happen.
Because people are so used to being weak that they give up the responsibility to be accountable for their actions. And they don't realize, because the doubt and the uncertainty and the distrust and complaint, all that's still playing out, how minimal, how there's so much in scarcity and mediocrity that they don't know what it is to be magnificent and be abundant and to live like that, to live, to create and share. Now, sure, when you wake up, someone may come along who's got malevolent intention, very well disguised. You rout them out. That doesn't mean that we're evil. You're confronting something that should not be there, just like the immune system confronts the offerings of disease and sickness that should not come into our life. You want it out of there. The elephant gun.
Yeah.
With love. It's a power. It's not the harm. It's strength. And people get confused with the passion of that real strength and the ego and its pride and all that stuff. They look similar, but they're not. You've got to know the heart. You've got to know the true consciousness, and you've got to sense it. Until that confusion has been overcome with, and one is no longer confused, and they truly can feel everything, anticipate everything around them, because the consciousness is not a prosthetic. We don't need prosthetics that way. So if something was coming to warn me, it will come to me that fast. You couldn't even document it. It'd be impossible to, even in a moment, to realize how fast it came to me. Oh, I better go and look at that. I need to find out an ancestor overlighting this dream with me and others who are holding this dream, which is all around us, not on the island. Mate gave me a tap on the shoulder and said, "Arthur, watch out," which is what happened with. I've got to tell you this. This happened with David Icke. 1996, he came and stayed at our house for a week. Fiona and I looked after him. I drove him around. Every day I was with David, I felt like I wanted to vomit. I felt like I was getting nauseated and I wanted to get sick. No, I was in awe of David. I still love David today. I don't distrust him in that way. But if he's prepared to work with the heart and go down that road, then he will come to it too. But every day I was with him during that week, I said to Fiona, something's wrong with me. I just feel like I'm going to vomit. I'm in the car driving David around going, or I'm doing this with David or whatever. I'm feeling. Anyway, years went past. I met a guy in 2005 during the battles of Macquarie Bank and all that, and we were in trauma and going through all this as we were coming to the epiphanies that changed my life. I met a 33rd degree Freemason who came from South Africa, but did not carry on the craft in Australia. He dropped everything. And he was an engineer with 3 different degrees. I can't remember, civil, mechanical, and something else. I don't remember what they all were. And he revealed to me an interest he has maintained, a real hobby, of buying very old biographies written by archbishops and bishops, I think back to the 16th, 17th, 1800s. And in the back of these bibliography sections of these books were the explanation of the meaning of the letters, which is what's used by the initiated when they talk to each other, which goes over the head of everybody else who don't recognize what's actually going on. Now, he revealed many things to me, and this all happened in the Supreme Court, and we had Supreme Court judges flee the courtroom. Didn't help me win the case. I still was too dumb and stupid to work out what the hell was going on. I needed to go through all this to work it out. And he then told me, this guy, he came to Australia in the early 70s, so this is now, he's been here for quite a while. He was in his late 70s, early 80s when I met him. And with his empathy and compassion, he shared with me all these things. And this is part of what opened up my eyes when I started contemplating all this and realizing sense and nonsense and all this stuff. So anyway, look, long story cut short, he did this thing called a script analysis on one of David Icke's books called The Truth Shall Set You Free. And out of every page in that book jumped the second language in code. Every page. And I could see this because I was starting to have my eyes open to this stuff. I'm going, my God. I rang him on the Isle of Wight. And I asked David, don't fob me off, David. Who is writing your books? Are you writing them or someone else writing these books? Because I explained to him then about the codes.
Yeah.
And I said it takes over 20 years to master this craft, to be able to use it to communicate in a language that other people will not detect. So you'll have a prime minister or someone, a president, who may be aware of this because they have been through it, and they'll be talking through the public domain as the president, but they're actually not talking to the people. They're talking to their own brethren. He might be saying, yeah, we're going to fix all this. He's actually saying, we're not going to fucking fix anything. We're going to do this instead. You listen carefully to how they all talk. They talk to each other in their own brotherhoods, sisterhoods. I saw all this. This is part of what opened up my eyes to a lot of these things. So I then realized, oh my God, because David fobbed me off. He didn't want to, he didn't even want to talk about this stuff. And I spent 2 weeks in denial. I was in complete denial. David can't be one of them. I was trying to work it out. And then one day the penny dropped. We will lead every revolution against us. We will lead every revolution against us. If I can get you to think, meaning if I can get you to feel, to dream what I want you to dream, feel, think, and I get you to focus on it, I can get you to create that. So I will do what I can to put it in your head and then manipulate it so you will put the energy in to create it. Basically, slaves will create a world in their master's image without realizing. And that's when the penny dropped about David. And I could see the tactics, the scythes that David was using. Now, bless his soul, whatever's there, David. I'm not anti-David, the man. Only the work.
Yeah.
And who it's serving. And everyone else is doing it. And we started exposing, I'm not joking, multi-hundreds of intelligence operatives, all encoded, all recorded in the Love for Life website. I could go on with names, very well-known names of these people. Not important now. So that's part of the consciousness that's spreading, where I don't want that to be living in the dream that I'm holding. I have to watch out that I'm not reacting, which I was doing for some years, feeding this stuff. Took me years to realize what was going on here. So there are many reasons why they're in here all the time. Today it's saturation, You've got radio waves, microwaves, you've got HAARP, you've got the chemical trails, you've got the vaccinations, you've got media, you've got social media, television, iPads, iPhones, mobile digital networks, advertising, billboards, marketing. How much is coming at you every instant, 24/7? And we are on the island nurturing this because we are the shoppers. We are the consumers. We are the materialists. We don't have a dream outside of what's in here. Everything is in here, controlled and massaged by these people. Everything. And unless you break away from this, break away from the island that taps into this in here, the emotions of all the darkness that plays out wherever you walk. You can even walk into a room and that darkness will come attacking you through people. It happened to me. I've walked into a hall and I could feel all this coming at me. Wow, how they gang up, how these demonic things gang up.
Arthur, I don't want to cut you short, but we're going to have to end this one there because I have to get on the road. Taxi duty again. And we can be forward again another day, whenever, maybe whenever we'll talk together. Plan for
I think we're coming. I think we just got to focus on the remedy, and we're coming.
Remedy and how to focus our intention on the good art, and
we need to create the space of our life to be doing it, living it,
hopefully,
not talking, thinking about
so others can perhaps see a glimpse of light and start doing work on themselves too. And that would be my biggest wish, probably. But even the wish often is going
Get
in
on
the
the land.
magical. So
Get on the land, grow food, work with seeds, work with
exactly,
flowers, work with flowers,
exactly,
because that is part of that consciousness that's communing with you. And that can help you open up more and more and more if you want to.
exactly. Yeah,
If you let
put
the
your
other
hand in
stuff
the dirt. Put your hand and your feet in the dirt. Boom, we're out. See ya.
forever.
Forever. Oh.